It's an ambush.
Oh my God, it's an ambush!
It's an ambush!
Of course!
Have the technical issues been addressed? And only you can tell me that. So, for those who are not in the know, as if it's a big deal in the grand scheme of things, about 2 weeks ago, thereabouts, I started experiencing on live streams some very lousy freezes. My footage would freeze, and the sound would stop. All the other stuff was working. The little banner thing was running, and the music was playing, and then after a couple 15, 20 seconds, it would disappear. Everything would be fine. And then it would come back. And this started happening on shows where I was a guest, where everybody else was freezing and roboting, and I was like, uh-oh. This happened the other day when I was on Midnight's Edge. I was able to cover for it, though. And so the question was, well, I guess my router is almost a decade old. Guess I should replace it. And it finally came today, and after some strenuous technical gobbledygook, I think I'm good. Question is, am I? Only you can help me with that one, so we'll find out as we go. So this is both a test stream and hopefully celebration stream that I'm back on with some brand new equipment. Pricey equipment, but it was needed, and it's been 10 years, and there you go. And it's a heck of a lot cheaper than renting it from the internet company. So, all that being said, who's joining me on this Ambush Sunday stream? Kiro Soldier, good afternoon. Blue-Eyed Scream, good afternoon to you. Unfair Ophelia, hello. Mike R, hello. Colleen Bernier. The last time I did a TEDx, I completely... regarding Colleen Bernier saying it was her birthday. This was like a week late now. And I felt really bad about it. I felt so bad about it that those of you on the Discord server, as soon as I realized this after rewatching the stream a little bit, I was like, ah! And I had to let everybody know, oh my God, I feel so bad. And I felt so bad. I still feel bad. So Colleen Bernier, senior staff reporter and chief Florida correspondent, Colleen Bernier. Stalwart fan. Wait a second. What do you mean no singing? I spent the last week and a half a lapsed Catholic feeling terrible about myself for missing your birthday, and now no singing? What am I supposed to do? How do I salve this self-inflicted wound? In all seriousness, you're okay with me not singing, Colleen? Because I meant to sing. So if it's okay that I don't, or you don't want me to, I won't embarrass you or myself, I suppose. I just want to let you know, as soon as I realized my error, it was important to me at least get back to you on it. I DM'd you on Twitter on the off chance you saw it. I don't know if you did, but I did. So for as many times as I said in the stream, no singing necessary. You already give a special interest. It's true. I mean, it is. You earned it. For those of you that don't know, back in ye olden days of Lords of the Night with Ranting Monkey and Satsu 2 Cents and Some Dumb American, Colleen Bernier was Johnny on the spot, so to speak, nearly every show, sending in stories almost exclusively with a Florida origin. And so early on into the show, as we had some key contributors to our news feed every episode, she became a senior staff reporter and consequently the chief Florida correspondent, Colleen Bernier. So, all right, Colleen. All right, I'll refrain. It's all right. I just want to let you know it was on my mind. You are always on my mind. Well, maybe not. Okay, I can't say that. You're not always on my mind. That'd be a little weird. Anyway, all right, with all that out of the way, who else is joining me today for this thing? Walter Tomaszewski. Good afternoon. My cats and I are glad to see you back. Scribe. Sure, your current DOCSIS cable modem can do a whole stream. I hope so. It's brand new, right off the shelf. Wi-Fi 6, 5 gigahertz. It sure as heck. I had to call the internet company because, of course, you can set up your new device using the app on your smartphone. And I was like, ha, smartphone. What's that? So I had to call, and it was kind of a weird conversation because the first call I made, I was sent to an automated AI robot person thing, and it wouldn't let me out. Like I said, I want to talk to a person because it kept telling me, use the app. Can I send you a link to your phone so you can download it? And I was like, no, I don't want the app. Please send me to a customer service. And it was just loop to loop to loop. So finally I hung up, called back the main line, got to a person. And at first I thought they had sent me to another AI thing. But no, the person I was talking to was actually talking to me. It just, their voice sounded a little odd. But it wasn't AI. You can kind of tell pretty quick if you're having an organic conversation with someone. And then about halfway through the process of registering my device, I explained, I appreciate that you're here on a Sunday, given that I tried to do the thing and it's trying to get me to an AI bot and all that. And he said, oh yeah, some people have complained about that. In fact, some people think that I'm AI because of the way my voice is, but that's because they change our voices on the phone. I was like, excuse me? Like, yeah, the voice you're hearing is not my real voice. I was like, is that for privacy or something? Or no, it's for clarity because a lot of the people they hire, English isn't their first language, so they try to mitigate the accent. I was like, that is so interesting. I had no idea, or if I knew it, I forgot it. And so by the end of the call, he'd helped me out. He got my device all registered and everything was working good. And I had him stay with me while I checked a couple of things. And at the end, I was like, well, I may not be hearing you in your original voice, but can I thank you for your help in your real name? And he's like, oh, well, it's John. I am in the Philippines. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was just a bizarre kind of little conversation revelation. I don't know. Anyway, that happened. Kiro Soldier, if I didn't already say hello, hello. Robert Pincus, good afternoon. Derek Larue, thank you, Derek, so much, as always, for your support and generosity. Very much appreciated. Also, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to thank Derek in the chat for the creation of the new bingo card and the spinning wheel that we use to pick the bingo card each week. I think I forgot to put the link to the bingo card in the chat. I think for this episode, since it's a little goofy, it's just a test stream, I'm going to save using the winner of last week's or the week before last's bingo spin for the official TEDxcellence next Thursday, just to make things easier on myself, because this is kind of a test stream. If everything goes sideways on this, I don't want to, waste their win on a bad stream. So thank you, Derek Lever. And also, Kirill Soldier, thank you again. Been promoting you to people to learn about DEI. Oh, well, thank you, Kirill Soldier. Yeah, it is. We'll talk about that in a moment. This is kind of a combo show. I'm going to do a little bit of DEI stuff, and then we'll do some TEDx stuff. There's been quite the news in DEI this last week, as some of you may already know. Adabisi, good afternoon. Scribe came. Just so as you'd notice. Let's see, who else is here? We got Colleen Bernier. We've got Attack Alpaca. Good afternoon. Did I already say Mike Savage? Mike Savage, Blarg. Frosted Glass. Good afternoon. Anybody else? Oh, Tall Person. Good afternoon. Nice to see you. I say hi to Blue-Eyed Scream. Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. Angelverse, hello. Anybody else? Dina B. Hi, Dina B. And thank you, Frosted Glass. So they finally patched Indian call centers. Like I said, it was a weird sort of, and I didn't elicit that or anything. He was just like, they'll just let you know. Some people think I'm AI, but it's actually the voice changer they use on us. And I'm like, so that was interesting. Anyway, so since I did not stream this last week, except for a brief appearance on Midnight's Edge, where in the middle of the stream, everybody froze, and I just sat there going like this, going like, how long is this going to last? And finally it resynced after a bit, so it didn't go too badly, I guess. I thought I'd do a sort of a combo Sunday buffet stream, do a little DEI news, and one or two TEDx talks. We'll see. Tech Alpaca, thank you so much for the, if the chat will catch up, with the how's it going, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wow-wee! Wow! Wow!
All right, thank you so much for that Attack Alpaca. Appreciate it. But yes, guys, so the big thing is for this stream, if I start to inordinately freeze, or the sound robots or whatever in the chat put big alarm symbols, capital letters, use your testosterone, and tell me that something's wrong, because I'm hoping that my new equipment will ameliorate the situation. We'll find out. Andrew, Chibi. Hey, Scrub, I used to listen from Sheffield in UK, but now I live in Canada. Well, I get that. Sheffield, UK, Canada. Why the move, Andrew? But thank you so much for letting me know. I'm always as sort of 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in the modern world as I am. I'm always amazed that I reach, well, A, anybody, and B, people from around the world. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you had, whenever you did move, I hope it was a smooth move. Now, though, current events at hand, I got to wonder, did you move for any particular reason? Hopefully nothing bad. But nice to hear from you, Andrew. Anybody else before I move on? I think I got everybody. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good afternoon. Let's see. I'm Canadian, but worked in the UK for a long. Okay, all right. Yeah, I was thinking, when you mentioned that, I was thinking of my friend Brian, 70s rocker. He is Scottish, and he moved to Canada at some point many years ago, I guess. And so, yeah, expats and so on. Or I guess you're repatriated. But, welcome back to the land of maple syrup and maple leaves. I can sing the whole Canadian national anthem for you if you'd like. Colleen Bernier stopped me from singing. I know the whole Canadian national anthem by heart because my father was a big hockey fan, and we go to the hockey games, and they'd always sing the American and the Canadian national anthems, so I have it memorized. So on the off chance you ever want to hear your own country's national anthem sung by me, I am able to accommodate. Hoot Owl! Good afternoon. Testes, 1, 2, 3. Only in the case of radiation poisoning, I assume. The real one, or there's modern monstrosity? Whatever version of the anthem from mid-1990s. That was the one that was drilled into my head. Though I have occasionally inserted my own funny lyrics just for the sake of fun. But, yeah. You can sing other stuff. Just didn't need a song from... Oh, okay. Well, thank you for the permission. I appreciate it. Anyway, guys. Let's do a quick little news thing. Now, you may have heard about this. The last DEI stream I did, DEI Death Watch, I talked about Jason Arde. And something happened the other day with Jason Arde, if you did not know, although the Times of India here puts it in a very odd fashion. After facing accusations of being a DEI hire, black former Cambridge professor found dead at home. Somebody asked me about this offline in the last couple of days because I did the stream on him last week or the week before. I have some thoughts. I don't know if they're necessarily politically correct thoughts on it, but let's talk about it real quick. Jason Arde, the black former Cambridge University professor, has been found dead at his home after facing relentless public scrutiny and accusations of being a DEI hire. That's not what he was accused of. That was... Okay, moving on. National Education Union General Secretary Daniel Kadebe said that Arde had been subjected to a, quote, public and brutal takedown that unleashed a tirade of racism by the worst elements of the British media and right-wing commentariat, unquote. The Metropolitan Police said officers were called to Arde's Battersea address just after 3 p.m. on Friday, where he was found unresponsive. Quote, his death is being treated as unexpected, police said. The 41-year-old, who became Cambridge's youngest black professor in 2023, resigned as a professor of sociology of education at the university on August 5th after Cambridge announced an investigation into his appointment. Originally, he was accused of plagiarizing his PhD thesis at Liverpool John Moores University, but then other aspects of his life and achievements came under scrutiny. Upon resigning, Arde said, quote, "The relentless accusations, speculation, and public commentary have taken a profound toll on me," unquote. Liverpool investigated the accusations of plagiarism in February and concluded it was not proven. I don't know if you've seen the side-by-sides of his PhD thesis next to the originating work. I mean, I guess it depends on what your threshold of proven is. Like, do you have video of him actually copying and pasting it? I suppose that would be kind of a high bar to jump, but in a Substack post on July 21st, U.S. researcher Nathan Kofnas claimed that he had run Arde's 2015 PhD dissertation through a plagiarism detection program and found, quote, "substantial overlap with previously published work," unquote. Kofnas concluded Arde had been, quote, "recruited to promote the ideology of DEI," unquote. This led to a media frenzy questioning Arde's career, achievements, and qualifications. Well, truth be told, and we'll go over them in a second here, his achievements and qualifications should have been questioned on their face from the get-go. Tall person, thank you. You killed him, according to mainstream media. Yes, I suppose that would be the through line here. I suppose that would be. Friend Professor Simon Baron Cohen, any relation to Sasha, spoke to Arde hours before he died. Quote, "Over the last few weeks since the plagiarism allegations came to national and international news, he was being subjected on an hourly basis to ridicule and humiliation. He told me on Friday morning he couldn't leave his home as his face and name were now so well known that he was a figure of shame." Okay, well, I hate to tell you this, and I know everything I'm going to say from here on out is probably going to sound really harsh. His face and name was well known before all of this. If you look back from even prior to 2023 and 2023 forward, how many articles about this guy the BBC and other publications put out there in praising and promoting him? The discovery of his lies did not make him a public figure. He made himself a public figure, and the academic establishment in the UK elevated him intentionally and quite stridently into being a public figure. So this idea that, oh, it's all, he was just this quiet, private individual before all this hubbub started. Nonsense. Nonsense and balderdash. Anyway, he told me on Friday morning he couldn't leave his home as his face and name were now so well known that he was a figure of shame. He maintains he didn't fabricate or lie. He told the BBC, quote, "He wasn't coping with the loss of his career and reputation, and he felt he couldn't go on," unquote. Jason believed there was a racist playbook to discredit black academics in universities. He added, well, of course. When you're caught lying about everything, obviously they're only doing it because you're black, not because you lied. No white person has ever been taken down from their perch because of lies before. They just get a pass, as we know. Quote, "The campaign of misinformation was too much for Jason, who was a gentleman and always wanted to see the best in everyone," his family said in a statement. Okay, so, not that anybody asked, anytime someone takes their, for YouTube's sake, whenever someone subtracts themselves from the equation of life, it is a tragedy of one form or another, because more likely than not, they are leaving behind people that cared about and loved them. So there's no doubt that, and as just to preface, as far as I know, it hasn't been confirmed that was the cause of his death. So I am operating on a little bit of an assumption here, unless it's been officially said otherwise. I think that's just sort of the general presumption. But on the speculation that this was a self-inflicted act, it is a tragedy. And I have been someone who has known people who have done that to themselves, people that I've known personally, and of course the people around them who knew them much better than I did. So I know I have an idea of what kind of effect they can have on people, regardless of what you thought of the individual themselves. So there's that. And I don't want to try to minimize the tragedy or the pain that the people around him must be feeling. On the same token, however, I'll take the pun, even though I didn't mean it. There's always the question of motivation. Now, oftentimes this is difficult to tell. Even if somebody leaves some indication behind of their reasoning or their rationale. But there are some things that are pretty clear-cut. There's a difference between someone who subtracts themselves right before they go on trial, let's say, for some horrible crime. And then there's someone who jumps on a grenade to save other people's lives. Both of these decisions result in the same end, but they are completely different acts in their motivation and intent. In this instance, it sure feels to me like the last pity party someone can have for themselves to escape the consequences of their own actions. Maybe that's too cynical, maybe that's too grim. That's just how I kind of feel about it. And ultimately, he was responsible for his own choices and his own stories. By the way, here is a top 10 list of the stories he told, just to remind. Number 1, he claimed that he ran 600 miles in 6 days, then later claimed it actually took 12 days. He claimed to have raised £5 million for charity, then essentially retracted the claim by attributing the money to unnamed fundraising groups. He claimed to have completed 30 marathons in 35 days, a feat that has been heavily questioned and remains unverified. He claimed an Ohio State affiliation that Ohio State University said he never held. He claimed a visiting professorship at Glasgow that the university denied ever happened. He claimed a Birkbeck qualification, but Birkbeck said it could find no record of him studying there. He claimed to have published a Palgrave Macmillan book that Palgrave said was never published. He claimed to have installed water points overseas with WaterAid, which contradicted his account. He claimed police traced a severed pig's head through local butchers. Someone had left a severed pig's head at his home, he claimed, as some kind of statement or attack. However, the Metropolitan Police said that was categorically incorrect, and his PhD contained more than 100 passages reported as similar, if not absolute lifts, from an earlier thesis, though he denied plagiarism. So that's my sort of grim, admittedly cynical and perhaps callous look at it. It's a tragedy for his family and his friends. He had a wife, he had kids, people that really cared about him. But this was an escape from consequence, in my opinion. That being said, Jill Powers, the River Daughter, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Scribe. Pathological liar is facing his truth. I guess. I guess so. But here's the other thing, too, and people are already talking about this. More likely than not, none of this would have happened if the institution of Cambridge and everyone around him hadn't just hand-waved all of his claims and elevated him to a position of authority and prestige without merit, without fact-checking, without asking any reasonable questions. Also, Frankie Delar. I know I've asked this before. Is it Delar or Delar or Delier or something? I mean, Colleen Bernier. I don't know. When my brain hits a name and I'm like, how do I pronounce it? I'm sure I've asked you this before. Let me know. Because I want to get things right. I want to know. I want to know. Della. Oh, Frankie Della. Okay, so the R is silent. It's a stealth R. Okay. It's pronounced Susan. Thank you, Random American. Appreciate it. Yeah, Jason Arday would not be anywhere that he is, or was, I should say, if it were not for people hand-waving him through all the gates and the checks and the balances that otherwise would commend somebody to that position. It reminds me a lot of Elizabeth Holmes. You know, and it's only in the retrospect, obviously. But if you guys remember Elizabeth Holmes, the CEO of Theranos, who herself did a TEDx talk at one point, or a TED talk, she claimed that her machine could enact a whole bunch of tests on a single drop of blood. And she claimed this for years, garnering millions of dollars of investment and celebrity endorsements and people on her board of directors and on and on and on. And, you know, it boggles me that no one in a position to grant her access or wealth or anything else ever said, wait a second, is it physically possible to perform those tests on one drop of blood? Did anybody go to a phlebotomist and say, can you violate the laws of thermodynamics by taking this tiny piece of tissue and performing all these tests that she claims? The answer was always no. And yet somehow for years and years and years, she promoted this company and got billions of dollars of investment and value out of it and everything else. It's like the simplest questions could really take down some of the biggest claims in this world. I think about Theranos. I think about Enron. There was an article done way back before the Enron crash where the reporter, and I think it was Bethany McLean. She made an article that just said essentially, is Enron overvalued? Like, it wasn't even making, as far as I can recall, it wasn't making any direct accusations of any kind of like fraud or lying anything. It was just a questioning of like, does this valuation make any sense? It was like the beginning of asking some real questions. But even that alone got her attacked. And like, I think she was threatened with a lawsuit or something, or she had to like sit down in a struggle session with the Enron executives over simply asking a question. So in the case of this guy, any number of his biographical claims to begin with are just too fantastical. It's all Life of Walter Mitty kind of stuff. That if you just looked, it's like, if someone ran 600 miles in 6 days or 12 days, they would be a known figure in runner's circles, at least, right? 30 marathons in 35 days? Which marathons? You got some photographs of this, right? Something? Just all this stuff. And so Jason Arday's downfall is only as dramatic as the people that lifted him up to the heights that he was at. And I think every single person at Cambridge in particular, who knows what else happened in his life and career prior to that, that is similar to this, but every single gatekeeper at Cambridge who looked at this guy's CV as he proceeded his way up through the ranks, they should be fired. And every single person that those same gatekeepers let into the castle before and after our day should be re-examined and vetted. Because it's just ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous how you would let that happen. The credibility of Cambridge is, as far as I'm concerned, if it ever was, zero. And they have to rebuild it back up by doing a full audit of every person that had an opportunity to say, wait a second, and decided not to ask any questions, decided to hand wave this guy through. And every student that either passed or failed under this guy's class should get all their money back. Imagine if someone's entire career, either through positive reinforcement from our day or being failed out of a class for some reason, is now either working or not working in their chosen field because of his oversight. Absolutely insane. So, anyway. What do we got in the chat here? Lysander Grulicious. His cart titan run on a broken leg. What? Blood magicians. Thaumaturgy. What are we talking about here? Also, Asan. Good afternoon. Eric Grinstatter. Good afternoon. Okay, so level check after half an hour on the air. Have we had any freezes? Have we had any roboting? Guys, let me know in the chat. I didn't see anybody yelling at me, so I'm guessing I'm okay, but I just, my paranoia is what it is. Brand new equipment and everything. Lysander says no. Frankie Della, and check how many have failed for being white in his class. And yeah, that's the other thing too. And that's Cambridge's responsibility now. The fact that they effectively brought race into the equation through his promotion and his accolades. All good, says Blue-Eyed Scream. No problem, says Unfairophilia. Does that include Roombas? Does what include Roombas? Unfortunately, we haven't been able to yell at you for roboting. Okay. Fingers crossed, knock Formica, that I'm good to go. Anyway, so that's the little bit of DEI I had to follow up on from the other week. What else is going on? Yeah, nothing. It's fine. Anyway. Let's see. You're all nuck and futz. You froze on my PC until I realized I hit the pause button. Okay. When I read the first few words of that line, I was like, oh. Thanks, Nuck and Futz. Also, Noah Sencio. Good afternoon. Alabay of Colorado. Hello. Boy, it's like old home week. Who was it I was talking to the other? I was talking to somebody the other day about my YouTube channel, and that's right. They asked me how large my audience was, and I said, with every stream, there's maybe, I don't know, 250 to 300 views or something. And that didn't impress them. They didn't have a YouTube channel, so I'm not quite sure what they expected. And he was like, that's it? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Have you ever had 300 people take the time out of their day to want to listen to you? Uh-oh, I just had what just beeped on me. There was some kind of alert noise on my computer, and I don't know what it was for. Okay, well, with that, now I gotta ask, am I still streaming? Am I still clear? I think I'm okay. Now, I gotta get like a co-host or something, otherwise I'm not gonna be able to tell what the heck's going on half the time. Jamie Milquist, good afternoon. Anyway, not seeing anybody screaming at me. I'm assuming I'm okay. Yeah, and so I said, well, you got to think of it in proportion of things. Sure, I only have, on occasion, 300 people that care to watch. But the other thing, and the thing that I told him, I said, was I'm more both flattered by, proud of, and grateful for, is the fact that every time I do a stream, I see people on here that names of which some of you I've seen on here since I started my channel, and I lack the vocabulary to express just how much that means to me. And over the years, familiar names and avatars, and me trying to get people's names down and become familiar with everybody. I wouldn't trade a million viewers that I've never even heard of or have no connection to for the 300 some odd people on a regular basis that I can recognize on sight. It doesn't compare. And if I was trying to make this into a career, maybe I'd have a different perspective. I'd like to think I'd still retain it even if I was trying to make a career out of it. But anyway, just an aside. Inquisitor. People just don't realize that a small portion of people are going to hit stupid huge numbers doing the YouTube stuff as hobbies for fun. Yeah, this is a hobby. And stupid huge numbers, I don't know. I've thought about that. As I'm coming up on my 10th anniversary 2 months from now, I've thought about, like, what was my intention when I started this channel? I should probably save this for the anniversary stuff, but not like I've talked about before. It was just catharsis. It was just for the sake of having a way to express myself at a time where expressing yourself was a dangerous prospect. If you spoke your mind to the wrong group of people, especially on Facebook, you were a pariah. And I needed an outlet, and I needed something to challenge myself. And I said at the time, And some of you veterans will remember this. I said, if I get 500 subscribers, I'm gonna pay it forward, and I'm gonna start a series called "Criminally Undersubbed," because I was told that same phrase by a whole bunch of people, that I was criminally undersubbed. And so as soon as I hit 500 subscribers, holy cow, that's more people than were in my graduating class of high school. And just, if only for a moment, 500 people decided, yeah, I'm going to follow that guy just to see what he has to say about a thing, even if it was only for a second. And so I was like, okay, so I started criminally undersubbed, and I did a video on, who is it? Oh gosh, it was a very short series. I'll tell you why it was a short series. I did one on your boy Pat. Golly gee, who else was on here? It's one of my oldest playlists. Let's see, criminally undersubbed. Only 3 videos. I only got 3 videos deep. I did one for Bloodwing, one for Amato Wolfchild, and one for your boy Pat. I did one. It's hidden now. He asked me to private it. I did one for a guy named Gabrielle, who did a takedown of movies and things in such a hilarious way. He did one on Taken 3. He did one on the Dear White People Netflix series long before Despot of Antrim did it. Not that Despot of Antrim did a bad job, but Gabrielle's takedown of Dear White People was amazing. It was so funny. And I was only able to sample a couple of scenes from it for my Criminally Undersubbed video, and it's the only remaining evidence that it ever happened. Oh man, I wonder what happened to that guy. He didn't do YouTube for very long, and he disappeared and he deleted his channel. I wish I'd saved his videos. They were so good. He was so funny. But then, around about that same time, I started having strangers coming along and saying, hey, can you do one of those for me? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And it became very awkward very quickly to have people requesting that I promote their channels when I wasn't a fan of them or knew who they were. It was very, very bizarre time. Bloodwing, that's who I was thinking of the other night. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, this may have gotten by me. I haven't heard about or from Bloodwing in forever. If someone, I'm assuming, there's a Taken 3. Oh yeah, there was a Taken 3. And it took like 11 edits or 11 cuts to have Liam Neeson jump over a fence. So, let's see. Lisa, your English degree and how you analyze the topics with little bias is what brought me here. Little bias. I mean, if that's how you perceive it, I'm not going to correct you, but I would never claim I lack bias. I try to approach things as they come, for the most part, critically and with, an open mind. But I don't know that I'd put myself in a place where I'd say I have no bias. Also, Adam Nixon. Good afternoon. Frankie Della, I think the hell that is the British heat wave is over. I hope so. I have several friends in the British Isles, and I don't want them to melt anymore. I got several friends in Europe that have been dealing with the heat wave, and anyway, that's all. Frankly, I only watch for Dog Cat Fox. Okay. Now, I have heard that you are thinking about starting an account on only DCF. Because you would be the only DCF. Okay, I'm not looking for a nod.
Wowie wow wow.
There you go. Okay. So you're not going to do that, right? Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself for even thinking about it. That's not why I genetically engineered you. Go away. Go back to your hole. Anyway, let's do a TEDx, shall we? Let's see. Who shall we do first? Let's do this one over in UO Chester. Let's see. So for the bingo card, what shall we do for the bingo card? Like I say, I'm going to save the winner of last time's spinning wheel for an official TEDx broadcast. So today's bingo card secret word. Let's just call it modem, because I have a new modem. So I'll put a link to the bingo card as is in the chat right now. I will update it to the description after the fact, because that's just how I'll roll. So get your bingo card modems ready. If you have the correct bingo card, at the top left-hand corner should be feminism, and the bottom right-hand corner should be patriarchy. Well, how fitting. And so this talk is called, let me get it up here just to make sure, Centering Intersectionality Within Health Equity. You got that? Centering intersectionality within health equity. This is 9 minutes long, or 9 minutes 23 seconds long, pardon me. So if you are ready for it. What? Don't forget Ellen Elliott Page. What? There are certain actors that I can't see run because they can't or look too awkward. Nick Cage and Liam Neeson are two of those actors. Well, admittedly, Nick Cage and Liam Neeson are no spring chickens any longer. Admittedly, I can't recall last time I saw Nick Cage. No, wait, when in Con Air, I think he looked okay in Con Air. He did a couple of running scenes where he's running away from explosions or whatever. He looked okay, because that's back in the 90s when he was, young and svelte. I know Ranting Monkey's favorite actor to watch run, Wee Man. Yeah, if he watches Wee Man run, he's happy as all hell. Or maybe Peter Dinklage. Anyway, so let's find out what it means to center intersectionality in health equity. Just for the heck of it, I guess. Anytime now.
The year was 1840.
1814, governor! Hello! The year was 1814. Okay, so we're going back to the early 1800s. Okay?
And we were just fading our way out of the Industrial Revolution and into the Victorian era.
Ooh, the Victorian era. The aesthetic of the Victorian era for like science fiction and horror and stuff is still one of my favorite sort of settings. There was a supplement game line for Vampire the Masquerade called Vampire the Victorian Age, which I never got to play a game of, but man, I liked getting the books and all the lore and the history in there and stuff. I still have my original copies. Victorian Age. Anyway.
It was the same year that New Zealand became a British colony. Mm-hmm. Canada became one nation.
Okay. Andrew, you're a Canadian. I know there's several other Canadians here too, probably. Is that when Canada became one nation, 1814? I admittedly don't know Canadian national history that well, even if I know the national anthem.
And essentially, Napoleon Bonaparte was laid to rest.
And essentially, the Napoleon Bonaparte was laid to rest. The build-up to that was a lot more than the payoff. Essentially, he was laid to rest?
It was also 1840.
Wait, did he say, wait, I thought he said 1814. Did I mishear him? Maybe I misheard him. Let me back up just a little bit. Sorry, I just want to make sure, because I like to know that I'm hearing things correctly.
The year was 1840.
Maybe it was 1840. Okay, if I misheard him, then I apologize. That was my bad. We'll go with 1840 until otherwise.
It was also 1840 that hand washing would significantly reduce cross-contamination within clinical settings.
Did nobody wash their hands prior to 1840 when it came to medicine?
Prior to that, doctors hadn't even bothered to wash their hands, moving from cadaver dissection straight across to the maternity ward without washing their hands.
I mean, I'll admit, not being a historian, especially when it comes to medical science, I don't know when the germ theory of disease first took real hold, but 1840 seems like pretty late in the game to just suddenly realize you should probably wash your hands before doing medical stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. You find that funny? What?
It's a practice that soon drew a deadly correlation between these multidisciplinary physicians, cross-contamination, and also life expectancy.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
In the year 1854, cholera struck. It was seen as one of the largest and deadliest of its kind at the time.
At the time, sure. No mention of, say, the Black Plague?
It was thought to be a result of a miasma or kind of bad air.
Okay, well, I mean, if the argument here is that our understanding of medical science has changed and improved over time, you're not going to get an argument from me to the contrary.
And experts at the time sought to try and clean up the air or create systems of ventilation.
Tell us about phrenology. Tell us about the measuring of skulls and bumps on people's heads.
But to no avail.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until they changed their theory of disease and disabled the pump that disease was able to be contained.
Okay. All right. So in the first minute and a half, you're just saying, guess what, guys? Our understanding of how diseases are transmitted has improved and changed over the decades and centuries. I believe you. And?
In 1858, of course, there was the Great Stink. In 1960...
Whoa. I mean, of course. Sorry. In 1858, there was the Great Stink.
Of course!
As we all know what that is, okay. If he's simply speaking to a British audience that has a sort of colloquial reference for this, good for him, but for the rest of us, what are you talking about?
Before the launch of smoking cessation, in 1985, harm reduction was introduced as a prevention tool to stop the transmission of HIV/AIDS.
Okay. There's a whole bunch of people in the chat probably correcting this guy or otherwise. Look at us. We're contemporaries and so superior to past generations. We're not racist, misogynistic, classist, ableist, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like, look at all these advancements. And then here's a statistical disparity on the basis of demographics. Obviously, what went wrong? I'm waiting for that. Exhumed legume, cholera, miasma. Did he confuse cholera for malaria? Literally bad air? I don't know. He's the one on the stage. He's the one comporting himself to be an expert. So I take him at his Nurgle. You're right. No, I mean, this all traces back to Grandfather Nurgle. There's no doubt about it, or Nyarlathotep, the King in Yellow, any particular avatar of entropy, as you might prefer. But it's fine. The Great Stink was the Thames River in the summer, especially reeked. It was London's main sewer line. Oh, see, I don't know. But I'm happy to learn something. I learn something new every day. Thank you, Nuck and Futz. Kay Scholl, good afternoon. All right, so yes, things have changed. And then?
Now, the commonality between all of these different events was that in each case, somebody dared to do something differently.
Sorry, I did cut him off, but I was like, somebody dared to do something differently. Okay. And this entire argument is going to underpin what argument of his own?
Somebody dared to do something differently. Optimally differently.
And so?
Possibly unimaginable. Maybe unpopular. Risky, even.
Uh-huh. And so?
But it wasn't until then that the change ultimately came.
Yes, changes come when changes come. Yeah.
Now, you might have heard it said that if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Now, this quote is often credited to American industrialist and businessman Henry Ford.
Henry Ford is the source of our downfall. Planned obsolescence is a scourge on human society. The assembly line and planned obsolescence. Part of me feels that way. You know, the downfall of craftsmanship. The sturdiness of what we make and what we use. That sort of Brady Bunch yellow refrigerator that everybody had in their house for like 50 years because it was made out of titanium and adamantium parts, you know? Versus the Apple device that as soon as something goes wrong with it, you have to buy a whole new device. They can't replace the battery. Adabisi, thank you so much. Francis the Great. Wait, Francis Great Stink ends when they find showers. Oh, Adabisi. Adabisi, that's so mean. Jeez. Such contempt for the French. Internet's favorite lunatic, the term is enshittification. Yeah, well, there's that too. That's a relatively new term. But he exemplifies the downturn of craftsmanship. Yeah. Henry Ford. Again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Speed and if everything's made exactly the same, you have interchangeable parts. I get it. There are pluses and minuses at the same time. Planned obsolescence. I just remember. You ever watch? And this is for you old fogies out there. You ever watch Norm Abrams? Used to be on This Old House, and then he had his own show where he'd remaster old furniture or make things. And I always heard about the shakers. Like the shakers, and here's a shaker dresser of drawers from like 1822. And aside from needing a new polish on it or something, a new coat of varnish, it works perfectly well and is as solid as a rock. Because craftsmanship was a thing. Making things to last used to be a thing, an art. And we've lost that in a lot of places. Anyway, I'll get off my finely crafted soapbox.
And what he's saying here is that by repeating the same behaviors, the same processes, the same actions, you'll inevitably always get the same result.
Says the guy with the assembly line and interchangeable parts.
And similarly,
I mean, he wasn't wrong, but
it was Rita Mae Brown that reflected a similar sentiment in her 1983 novel, Sudden Death, where she states that insanity is essentially doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Is that where that comes from? For some reason, I never think about it that much. I always thought that it originated with like Einstein or something. Rita Mae Brown in a 1983 novel. That's where that quote comes from? Is that true? Gotta ask. Mark Fields. Thank you so much. Positive vibes to you, good sir. Thank you so much, Mark. Well, positive vibes seem to be following me today. And the vibes being the Wi-Fi signal from the other room as compared to what I was having with my previous set of equipment. So far, so good. And otherwise, yeah. So thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good Sunday. Einstein. Yeah, I thought that came from. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I've been corrected on quotes I thought were attributed to one person, but actually came from somewhere else. But Rita Mae Brown, he says. Okay.
Although some may contest the cultural appropriateness and political correctness of the use of the word insanity.
Oh man, was I having some 2014, 2015 flashbacks just then. I haven't heard that kind of language policing in quite a while, or at least not that bluntly. Oh man, let's hear that bit again, shall we?
Some may contest the cultural appropriateness and political correctness of the use of the word insanity.
What culture am I appropriating the word insanity from? Just out of curiosity, I mean, is it the Malkavians? Because if it was the Malkavians complaining about me using the word insanity, I might take them seriously. And if you know what I'm talking about, you're a big nerd. Anyway, the cultural... Oh, wow. I think all things considered, that probably deserves a...
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
All right. Okay, well, with all of that as your foundation, what are you proposing now that we're a third of the way through your talk?
But that's by the by.
That's by the by. I just thought I'd drop that little nugget there to stink up the room. And let's move on. Okay.
But sadly, it's quotes just like this that are often vulnerable to misinterpretation.
Really? Such as?
Because it's not just about doing things differently. We can all do things differently.
Can we, though? I only know one way to breathe.
But optimally differently. In a way that achieves the very best possible outcome.
How can you know what the very best possible outcome is? I mean, I suppose there are some relatively binary things. Are you alive or are you dead? Are you conscious? Are you not conscious? I suppose there's some, but you got to get more specific.
Now, myself, with a background in cellular and molecular biology,
You have a background in cellular molecular biology. Okay. Okay, what does that have to do with... All right, so you give us a history lesson. You talk about the definition of insanity or the repetition of actions and their subsequent outcomes. I mean, I suppose if you're a scientist, you have some experience in, testing and results and stuff. Oh, okay, all right, just one thing at a time, one thing at a time.
Myself, with a background in cellular and molecular biology, the scientist in me really listens to that quote and says, well, goodness, now that's top-tier science, right?
What, the insanity thing?
Right? It's repeatable, it's reproducible, it's reliable. Fantastic. Where's the problem?
What is? What are we talking about? The definition of insanity now, or are we talking about the progression of changing what you're doing for optimal performance?
Having played viola for 30 years, the musician in me says, well, practice makes perfect, right? And repetition only deepens the impression.
It depends on what we're talking about. Yes, Quiz in the chat brings up a good point. If I'm having to try to reprogram my brain for what he's talking about, we are on word salad. Let's go to the bingo card real quick and remind ourselves what we're listening for, and also review and see what we have so far. Before I do that, of course, over in the chat, let me get this. Mark Fields, thank you so much. Talk about stumbling in the dark. Yeah, I'm waiting. I mean, this is only like a 9-minute talk, and I'm confuzzled as to what he's trying to get to or what he's going to tell us next. Anyway, the bingo card. Feminism. Not yet, no. Sales pitch for product or service. I mean, he's kind of selling himself now, but I'll wait and see if there's something else going on. Contradicts own point or fails to make argument. We're not there yet. Benevolent condescension. Yes, the cultural appropriate and political correctness of using the word insanity. Like, okay. So certainly benevolent condescension. Plays victim. He hasn't talked about himself yet in that wise. Privilege, not yet. Marginalized or marginalization. Not yet, though I imagine we'll have to get there. Collectivizes own demographic. Not specifically. I mean, he says, the scientist in me, the musician in me. We'll give it a minute. It's probably there. A list. He hasn't gotten to a number. Well, No, you know what? He's given us a list of historical events. So I'll take that one. Circle in that one. Leaves out vital context. Still waiting to see where he's going with this. Economic disparity. Not clearly yet. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. No. DEI philosophy. Not yet. Deceptive statistics. I'm waiting to see if he puts up a chart. Mind reading assumes motives. Again, I'm waiting to see where he's going with the health equity part of things. Anecdote that probably never happened. I don't know. Was Napoleon buried in 1840? I don't know. Childhood or family anecdote. He hasn't referenced his family yet. Systemic or institutional. Well, yes. The health science. Well, okay. Let's wait. Let's wait and see. I think we inevitably get there if he's talking about health equity and outcomes. He's gonna have to be talking about systems and institutions. But let's give it a minute. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Not yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. No. White supremacy. No. Weightless example or non sequitur. It all depends on how he brings all this back around, because he said a lot of things so far. But he also said word salad, so circling word salad, and lastly patriarchy, not clearly yet. So far on the card, benevolent condescension, a list, and word salad, several others that we might get to. And remember, today's secret word is modem. Modem, putting a link to the chat in the chat, or link to the card in the chat. Frankie Della says, boo. Boo? Are you a ghost? Cosgrove just wanted everyone to, he plays the gayest instrument possible. I don't know if that's true. I've seen some pretty badass violin playing before. I don't know. Devil Goes Down to Georgia? I don't know, man. There's been some hardcore violining before. I've seen some.
Great. What's the issue?
I don't know.
And having played competitive sports.
Okay, you're a Renaissance man.
To a high level.
I'll take your word for it.
I must say. The athlete in me says, well, if at first you don't succeed, just try again.
Yes, okay, the process of the scientific method requires repetition to test the outcomes. Yes, and becoming good at music, practice makes perfect. And yes, if you fail, you attempt to, yeah, okay, so these, and so this leads you to what?
Of course. But I'm not sure that's what Henry Ford was reminding of us of here.
Well, again, he was either making an insanity argument or a sort of predictable outcome on the basis of same action. I mean, again, this is the guy that had the assembly line and replaceable parts. So if you do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same thing. The same Model T kept coming off the line because we kept making it exactly the same way as the one before it. It all depends on what we're talking about.
When he says, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten.
Yes, and it's up for interpretation without further context. And where are you going with this?
I think what he's saying here is a little bit different.
You think what he's saying... What is the full context of that quote? Why do we have to wonder what he meant? Thank you again, Mark Fields. Almost much ado about nothing. Yeah, almost. Although I don't think we have any Shakespeare coming our way here. You never know, though. He's quoted everybody else so far.
And there's something that you might have heard of called biomimicry.
Biomimicry. Is that like... Well, I mean, when I think of biomimicry, I think of like, I see someone do something and then I repeat it myself because I see that it works. You know, it's like if I see the ancient peoples, like somebody hit something with a rock and there was a spark And like, I see them do that, and I do it, and I get a spark. That kind of thing?
The mimicking of biology or
Yes.
science.
Oh, okay.
And it speaks to the idea of transforming the way that we design, innovate, and even solve problems.
Give me an example. I'm sure there are plenty.
And it's the founder of the Institute of Biomimicry, Janine Benyus, that describes it as innovation that is simply inspired by nature.
Like an airplane. It's shaped like a bird, right?
Now, it would of course be up to us as humans to be humble enough to actually engage with what nature is trying to teach us.
Which we have never done before in either agrarian or industrial society. Taking cues from nature in interacting with the world around us. I guess.
And there are key biomimetic principles that come to mind, including things like biodiversity
Biodiversity?
or symbiosis,
Symbiosis? Oh, we're halfway to venom.
adaptation, words you've
Yeah.
heard of, right?
Yes, I've heard of these words. Where are you going with this? You started out with medical innovations and changes over time. Now,
Words you've heard of, right? Optimization, maybe less so. And of course,
yes, I've never heard of the word optimization before. What?
self-organization. And looking to things like biodiversity, it tells us that what nature is trying to suggest to us is that we can experience perspectives and workforce diversity.
Oh, perspectives and workforce diversity. That sounds like DEI philosophy to me. Circling DEI philosophy on the board. And we're also talking about systems. Systems of development, systems of observation, systems of change, etc., and so forth. And if you can believe it, after circling that one...
Bingo! What? Bingo! Bingo! Yeah! Bingo! Okay!
Our first bingo. Also, Jill Powers. Have a great day, everybody. Have a glorious Monday. You too, Jill. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Have a good Monday. See you soon. Okay, we got our first bingo. Perspectives and workforce diversity. That's what we should take from biodiversity. Biodiversity is an affirmative argument for DEI practices, everybody.
Easy, right?
Nah, easy if you don't think about it too hard, sure.
Where nature speaks of symbiosis, it talks about collaboration, communities of care.
Oh, it does it? Communities of care. Oh, you mean like the symbiosis between the lion and the gazelle? That kind of symbiosis? Yeah, there's a lot of caring going on.
Adaptation, flexible staffing, and resilient health systems.
Adaptation, entire swaths of species being wiped out and only a few that survive that have the ability to do so under changing circumstances. Yeah, it's a very peaceful process.
For optimization, it speaks to principles like effectiveness and efficiency.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to self-organization, the decentralization of power.
Self-organization leads to the decentralization of power. So, when the 13 colonies, and I am abbreviating history quite a bit here, when they decided to decentralize power from the crown, there was no central power structure in the resulting years thereafter. When they decided to self-organize, power was decentralized. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I sound like an idiot or something. I don't know. Molly Okami. Good afternoon. Catch you on the replay. Well, I'm glad you can, and I'm glad so far. Without any interruptions or freezing. Kami talk. Yeah, this is. Okay.
And all these principles and tools we enjoy talking about and discussing. We go to conferences. We enjoy the discourse around them.
You know what? I do. I do enjoy the discourse around them. I virtually attended several discussions and conferences on these subjects before. You're doing an amazing job trying to rationalize a whole bunch of nonsense to some observable functions in nature. It's interesting. I'll say this is a unique attempt at making whatever argument you're making, because this was supposed to be about centering intersectionality within health outcomes, or health equity, pardon me. And we kind of left the whole health equity thing in the first 2 minutes.
But what Audre Lorde suggested in 1979
Audre Lorde! Oh, man. Okay, well, we got feminism here.
was that a master's tools will never dismantle the master's house.
Oh, wow. Gosh. So, what do you mean? What are you suggesting happen? What?
And it's a powerful statement that essentially suggests that if we expect different outcomes, we won't get there by simply using the same systems and approaches.
What are you attempting to change, and how do you propose going about changing it? You've got 3 minutes.
Now, I have found in my own work that where people have access to the right information, where people have safe and sensitive and inclusive environments.
Safe and sensitive and inclusive environments.
Where people are honored for their lived experience.
Honored for their lived experience. I mean, if your lived experience is like going to war and putting your life on the line for others, yeah, I could see being honored for that. I guess it all depends on what you're talking about when you say lived experience, because my lived experience was, getting up late this morning because it was a Sunday. I don't think that deserves any kind of honoring. What do you mean?
Given the skills and the ability and the space to develop those skills.
Skills. Okay, well, we're talking about merit there, yeah.
Okay, that's a point in my own research that I refer to as optimization.
A point in my research I refer to as Okay, well, he said the magic word, so attempt to coin new buzzword, buzzphrase-ish, even if it's not his word, he's context if he's using it. For those of you listening at home, he's got a intersectional circle graph on here, overlapping access to credible information, lived experience plus skills plus cultural competency. And we remember the cultural competency means using culturally appropriate references in math problems. That's what PBS told me years ago. And the third circle is safe, sensitive, inclusive environment conditions. And where those overlap, dare I say, intersect, is called optimization. Now, will he provide us a real-world example of this in his own practices?
So that means...
Oh, sorry, Venn diagram. Yes, pardon me, I used the wrong term. Venn diagram. Sorry, not Z3PO. Venn diagram.
that where people have access to information, that might turn up in the form of autonomy, right? Or citizen power.
This sounds like a lot of commie bullshit, doesn't it?
As Sherry Arnstein calls it.
Sherry Arnstein.
Where there are safe, sensitive, inclusive environments. Maybe that's a trauma-informed approach.
Man, there's nothing I like more than a trauma-informed approach. Really brings a ray of sunshine into my day.
That's psychologically safe.
A psychologically safe, trauma-informed approach. Some people need to remain in lab. I'm all for someone bringing their ideas to the forefront. I loved interrogating other people's ideas on things. This guy is a scientist, a musician, and an athlete. He had 10 minutes on a stage all by himself to give his best presentation. This is the best he can do. We're not done yet, but,
When it comes to lived experience, it should stand at the same shoulder height as professional experience and how it's honored.
Lived experience should stand at the same height as professional experience. Like what? When you say lived experience, what do you mean? Like practical lived experience? Professional versus lived experience. Where's the line of demarcation between those two things? I would love to hear an example. I can think of one. I can imagine quite a bit, but
But either way, according to my research, it suggests that that's where the magic happens.
okay, I thought you were a molecular biologist. What research have you done that leads you to these conclusions? What was your method?
Now, the scientist in me could not resist, of course.
Oh, sorry. Could not resist, what was that? Of course.
Of course! Of course!
Testing this.
Testing what?
Because the theory is great, but until we've tested it, how do we know it actually works?
What? Wait. The theory is great. The theory that your Venn diagram equals you know, it sure seems like the care with which you went into creating this Venn diagram is one of those situations where you kind of came up with your own conclusion before you actually did anything. So was it just happened to be the case that your pre-established theory of how people work turned out to be exactly right?
And it was in 2019, after the first year of my doctoral studies, where I launched an organization that I felt had very similar principles to the ones I've spoken about previously.
Name the organization, and we'll circle sales pitch for product or service.
It was built on biomimicry, grounded in biomimicry, rooted in human-centered design, and it really sought to honor lived experience leadership.
You know, the fact that this started around about 2019 seems just about right for the heyday of DEI, intersectionality, all that nonsense really coming into its own. So I'm not surprised by that at all.
And as a result, we saw people that felt that they were centered in decision-making.
Why? For what reasons were they centered? On what basis?
We saw people functioning, having been given the right tools.
The right tools to do what? What are? I'm always both impressed and bewildered when someone gives a speech on something and it sounds like they're saying something specific, but they give absolutely no tangible examples of what they mean.
And we also saw an environment that they felt was optimized for their success.
In what, tell me a story of a person and how this happened on the ground in the proverbial trenches. This is all high-level abstraction.
For them to thrive. And that was all due to this intersectional model of thinking differently. Since that time, I've had the great privilege of taking the learnings from that organization.
Privilege! Oh my gosh, you said the word. Circling privilege on the card. Oh boy.
And launching a new initiative.
Give us the name so I can circle sales pitch for product or service.
Which was launched in 2022.
Uh-huh.
That was my second organization, but this time a consultancy, which was built on learnings such as equity and thinking about how we can build capacity through adaptation that we already saw before.
Uh-huh. An organization brought about in 2022. Oh, it was the perfect time. Man, like I say, if I was going to run my own DEI consultancy firm, 2018 to 2022 is sort of the sweet spot. 2022, you're just about on the cusp of everything going downhill. But yeah, about 2018 to 2022, anywhere in there would have been the best time to do it.
But using public health principles. So equity, efficiency, effectiveness.
Oh my God, all the E words.
Participation, social justice, autonomy, accessibility, and even affordability.
Social justice. What did you do? Who did what? What actual things did you take part in? Or organization or activities did you rustle up? What are we talking about? This is utter nonsense fluff. Give us an example. Whose life did you affect through this?
Basic public health principles.
Basic public health principles. Social justice is a basic public health principle? Okay.
But this time I chose to focus on a broader group and of course consider the wider determinants of health.
Of course.
Now, I don't stand here and profess having talked about the historical examples of public health and some ways in which I have reconsidered how we can think more optimally and do things differently to have all the answers.
you haven't even provided the framework of a question, let alone an answer. I don't even know what you're talking about. If you're going to bring up historical examples of the advances or vicissitudes of public health policy, then maybe, I know it's a crazy idea, he still has a little bit of time left, so maybe it'll happen. Maybe you should bring up something in the current day that you think is a problem and how your theory of optimization would address it. That would seem to me to be the logical follow-on from acting as historian in public health policy to what you've been doing since at least 2019. Or maybe this might be a bit, more, I don't know, cerebral, is to say, if my organization existed back during this event of history, this is how we would have handled it differently and changed history for something like that. A little grandiose, but, if you're going to bring up historical examples, you could say, well, with a retrospective eye, this could have been this and this could have been that. Instead, I have no idea what you do, how you do it, or what changes you've made in the world as a result, either to individuals or processes or systems or anything.
Absolutely not.
And yeah, right. And you have no answers for everything, right? Okay, but could you give us an answer to something?
But I think based on a bit of my research and some
Like what? A bit of your research into what? Abstract ideas and Venn diagrams with no definition? Boy, oh boy. That's got to be a lot of heavy lifting for a molecular biologist.
of the things that we're learning here together today,
I'm not learning anything from you.
that there's an opportunity for us to consider the evidence and some of the community insight that's come up along the way.
Evidence of what regarding what?
To suggest that, actually, here we are again. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Okay, you can repeat Henry Ford into the dirt, and it doesn't mean anything. There's only 20 seconds left on this thing.
Henry Ford said it. I didn't.
And so what?
Thank you.
That's it? Wait, well, okay, the only possible saving grace to this is if this talk occurred at a TEDx event that had a pre-established theme or subject. Like if this was just one entry in a broader series of talks on something that we just weren't told as the secondary audience to this, then maybe this might make some sense. Like if the title of the convention or the event at this was the quality of drinking water in the modern Britain, blah blah blah, then maybe I'd have some context. But I don't know what were we even doing here. It's like listening to an ex-wife avoiding apology. I mean, it was a lot of words meant to sound like we were being exposed to something meaningful and profound. And yet, okay, well, whatever that was and whatever it was about, here's the bingo card as we have it. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them. I'll get to you momentarily. Feminism. He brought up Audre Lorde, but not in the context of her being a feminist, so can't really use that. Sales pitch for product or service. You know what? For twice he talked about organizations he started, research that he's done. He didn't name anything, but he talked about a consultancy, so for all intents and purposes. Plus, I'm a scientist, musician, athlete. There was a lot of resume fodder here. So if nothing else, he was selling his credentials and his activities. Contradicts own point or fails to make argument. No kidding. Plays victim. He never made a lot of self-referential anything about that, so that doesn't really work. Marginalized or marginalization. Well, yeah, inclusivity. His emphasis on that, at least in the ipso facto, is talking about being marginalized. Collectivizes own demographic. I mean, if I want to loosen it up to as a scientist, as a musician, as an athlete, then maybe, but usually it has something to do more with like, speaking as a man or speaking as a black woman or something. And I didn't really get that. So I don't know. Just talking about it on a vocational or hobbyist level count? You tell me. Leaves out vital context. You ain't just whistling Dixie. Economic disparity. I mean, not overtly. I mean, he talked about the changes of health policies over time, but I don't think he really delved into economic equity. He was talking about health equity. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. Not that I recall in any meaningful way. Deceptive statistics. Okay, he didn't really use any statistics in this. It was just Venn diagrams with words on them. Yeah, I don't think he really used statistics, so mind reading assumes motives. Well, let me think for a second on that one. I guess Henry Ford. After a fashion, he was reading Henry Ford's mind. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Anecdote that probably never happened. The only anecdotes he really had were his historical examples and then his personal/professional examples. The historical examples, I got to give a little leeway because if he's just talking in summary, I can't really nitpick that much unless there was something drastically off base. So, childhood or family anecdote, he never really talked about his childhood as growing up. Self-vilification or wretchedness, no. White supremacy, didn't bring up race. Weightless example or non sequitur. The insanity quote, the Henry Ford quote. I mean, he quoted these things, but they never had anything to do with anything. He needed to give an example in real time, in the modern day, where there's something that we're doing, or from his perspective that we're doing, that needs to be changed. I kept waiting for him to bring up something. Honestly, here's what I was expecting. I was expecting, whenever I hear about health equity, I almost always am presented with a statistical disparity in health outcomes divided by race or divided by gender. That's the first reflexive thing I think of when I get a notion I'm going to be hearing a health equity argument, that it's going to be an argument of statistical disparity. Not provable inequity, just statistical disparity. And I was amazed he didn't bring that up at all. So, not bringing that up, but bringing up a bunch of quotes of Henry Ford or Rita Mae Brown, whether that quote came from her or not. And lastly, patriarchy. Again, he never brought up any kind of gender dynamics or politics or anything. So that's the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, put them in the chat now. And if I miss your argument, I will, please just repost it. I'll scroll up a little bit. Professor R2, good afternoon. If lived experience is that, I lived experience is that I became immune to that flu bug, so I'm also an immunologist. There you go. Right. My lived experience is now expertise. It's something I carry over professionally. I mean, if you had lived experience of a chaotic household, and you learn the art of diplomacy amongst your family members before you had to carry that over into a professional setting, okay, you might be able to make that argument. But without him giving us an example, I don't know what he means. Doctoral research, I think you're right in that higher education assessment, Frosted. Oh, I missed Frosted's comment or whatever it is. You're all knuckin' futs. Let me sum up. White men are bad, okay? White men are bad. Credit where credit's due. He never brought up race, at least not directly. I mean, unless there was some secret language there that I missed. Angela Arriaga, good afternoon. Angela, hope you're doing well. Nice to see you. Let's see. Scribelight, self-vilification. He said insanity, which he told us is a no-no word. I mean, I use that for benevolent condescension. I don't think... Well, okay, so first and foremost, he was quoting someone else, and then he made sure to give a disclaimer. I don't think that was self-vilification. Like I said, I think that was benevolent condescension, or more of like a sort of projected accusation on anybody else who would use that word. So I didn't sense anything self-vilifying there. I think he was making sure that he covered his bases with anyone who would come down on him for using it. But I don't think that was self-vilification. Let's see. Patriarchy. He gave that quote from a feminist about dismantling the master's house. What do feminists consider to be the master? I understand that, but the context in which he used it was not about gender dynamics. Like I said, I recognize who the speaker was in that quotation. I understand what she's well known for, but it all depends on this talk in particular, what he was using that for. He wasn't making a feminist point. He was seemingly making a point about health systems and outcomes without telling us what he meant specifically. So I can't say patriarchy, I can't say feminism, because he didn't use it to make that point. I wish everyone a wonderful day. Please be safe and take it easy. You too, Mark. Thank you so much for showing up, and thank you so much for your generosity. And if everything works out, I'll hopefully see you on a Midnight's Edge show in the near future. Take care. Yeah, this was a very short, very abstract, very interpretive talk. Nazi 3PO. Don't read Audre Lorde as mostly crap. I've never had an inclination to. What few quotes have ever been passed my way from her, about as much as I care to know. But yeah, I can't just within the boundaries of this talk, using that quote doesn't necessarily mean feminism, patriarchy, unless he was using that to underscore a point on it. Interpretive equals pointless. Yeah, especially when you're talking about if you stand on the stage and your claim to authority is that you're a molecular biologist, you're a scientist first and foremost, and you're talking about health equity outcomes, you talk about the science of health policy over the course of 100+ years, and then you just trail off into sophistry, gobbledygook for 3/4 or 2/3 of your talk. Like I say, ultimately, this is and I've said this about any number of TEDx talks. You're given a stage. No one is interrupting you. You've got a couple of very, very loose guidelines for what you're doing. This is the best this guy could do to make his point. No one was stopping him. He had all the time in the world and all the preparation. He had his slides up and everything. This was the best he could do to make whatever point he was trying to make. So the proof, I guess, is in the pudding. If it's coming from a feminist, that would be my assumption. Don't read Audre Lorde, yeah. It depends on what feminism we're talking about. Feminism is a many splendored thing. There are completely practical and reasonable stages of feminism, simply for equal rights under law and so on. But then after that, you're getting into Looney Tunes territory, mostly. So anyway, there's the bingo card. Let me, for that talk, we may have another talk here in a moment. So don't get too excited that everything's ending. I'm gonna do at least one more talk. Just try to make up for lost time on a week of not having any streams at all. Okay, so we're gonna keep the same bingo card. But now, which one shall I do? Which one shall I do? I got a lot to choose from. Let's see. Oh, right. I got a whole like backlog of different talks, guys, that I haven't looked at yet. Okay, now that one's almost 20 minutes long. That might be a bit too much. I don't want to do that one. Okay. All right, so this one's kind of a regulation length TEDx talk. And the title, it's the title that caught me, and I almost did it. Did I even keep the... I I made a thumbnail for this. Did I keep that? Oh, I wonder if I did. Did I get rid of it? Oh, I must have. I had made a thumbnail for this one on the chance that I might do it. And I didn't keep it, did I? Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, so let me pull it up here. Oh boy, I got a lot of file windows open. Let me close these. Too many file windows. Pardon me, guys. A little housekeeping here on the back end. No, we don't want to do that one. No. Okay. Yeah, let's try this one here. We'll do one more, and then we'll see where we're going to go. Now, is the sound okay on this? Okay, sounds all right. All right, so this is a mystery box TEDx talk, in the sense that I don't have much of any context save for the title, which caught me. The title is Evil is Dead. Evil is Dead. And the thumbnail that I came up for this one, I used the Evil Dead font from the Evil Dead movies. I can't remember what the pun was, but I came up with a clever pun for it. So, evil is dead. What does that mean? Now, my first thought, and I remember thinking about this at the time. I tried to think, what does he mean by evil is dead? And the thing that kept occurring to me was, especially in like modern media and storytelling, the emphasis on moral relativism. For whatever reason, I always think of, there was this presentation that Lucasfilm, Disney Star Wars gave around about the time of The Acolyte coming out, or in the pre-production lead up to or something, where one of the actors, and I can't quote him verbatim, but he talked about how, there's no light side, there's no dark side to the Force, etc. It was this sort of trying to rationalize a lack of morality because it's all just subjective. So when I saw the title and I started thinking about what it could be about, my first thought was the effort in modern media and woke culture and everything else around the idea of moral relativism. So I'm wondering if that's what it is. It's not that evil doesn't exist, it's that there's been an effort to try to normalize or dilute the contrast between right and wrong. That's my guess. I don't know. I guess we'll find out together. So anyway, reset your bingo cards, refresh your pages. We're on the same bingo card modem. Secret word modem. I'll put the link in the chat again for those of you that don't have it. Get your bingo cards ready. This one clocks in at just over 12 minutes. Let's get going.
Do you remember the movie that you were obsessed with as a child?
Yes! Yes, I do!
I do. Mine was The Wizard of Oz.
Okay, I mean, if you say so. Channel strike. Yeah, I only thought about that in the last couple seconds. I was like, I probably shouldn't let this run that long. But hopefully it's like, royalty-free type music. I hope so. Anyway, I guess we'll find out together, won't we? Okay. The Wizard of Oz, you say. You're younger than I am. The Wizard of Oz? Okay.
And my mother, she would drag me around town singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow at the grocery store, her hairdressers, the bank.
I've got a Wizard of Oz story. It's not my story, but it's a story that's sort of family lore. My father, he grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Or Luxembourg nearby. Anyway, when he was a kid, he lived, his and his folks' place was situated across the street from a graveyard. And when he was a kid, he would go over to this graveyard, and for a nickel a head, he would track down and kill gophers in the graveyard. You know, he'd track down where their holes were, and he'd take a little shovel spade thing. And for every head of a gopher he collected, the caretaker would give him a nickel. Pretty gruesome, but honest work. And my dad would take these nickels, and he would take them down to the theater. Now, at the time of this story, The Wizard of Oz was in theaters. And along with the movie, they also offered a China set. So you'd have these little, like, you'd have like the dinner plate and a gravy boat and a teacup. And each one of these items had painted on them scenes from The Wizard of Oz. And you only got one item per visit or something. So, and the set, I forget what it was. It was a set of like 3 or 4 pieces or whatever. So he would go down to the theater and go see the movie and get the latest item in this set. And he'd bring it back home to his mother. And so he eventually got the entire set of the Wizard of Oz dinner plates or dinner set or China set or what it was. And apparently this was in my grandparents' home forever. Of course, it got lost and or moved to someone else's place in the years since. And so I'm sure that that collection, if it were in my family's hands now, would be a prized possession and probably worth quite a lot. But yeah, so that's my sort of family lore connection to the Wizard of Oz film at the time that it was in theaters. Now, I don't know if this happened. When did the Wizard of Oz come out originally? That was 1939. Yeah, so this had to have been a reissuance because of the film and some promotional stuff, because my father was born long after 1939, 1945. So it had to be part of some promotional thing that was occurring in a re-release. If the story is true. Now, and more importantly, if I'm retelling the story correctly, because it has... I don't want to turn my dad sort of in absentia into a Jason R. Day story here, but this is how I remember the story being told. So if someone can find out, or I should probably look it up to make sure. Was there a time where they offered a Wizard of Oz China set along with showings of the film? Because I think that might have been a real thing. Anyway, Renovatio. Probably some homeless midget is trying to survive the winter in a hole in the graveyard and he gets beheaded for a nickel. What a way to go. I did my best to read that with a straight face because as soon as I got to homeless midget. Thanks, Renovatio. Boy, oh boy. Really put an optimistic shine on my father's personal history. Thank you. Anyway, Wizard of Oz, your mom would sing and hum the show tunes from it with you as you went to the bank and the grocery store and the baker and everything.
Believe it or not, when I visit my hometown today, people still ask me to sing that song.
I don't believe you. Okay, well, anyway, let's move on. Childhood or family anecdote, him and his mother. Anecdote that probably never... I mean, if in his small hometown he's known as the Wizard of Oz singing guy, maybe. We'll discuss it later. I'll leave that blank for now. Anyway, on the card so far, childhood or family anecdote. Let's continue.
How my parents didn't know I was gay is a mystery to us all.
Roll credits.
But that's a story for another day.
I think you just told it.
If you remember the Wicked of Oz, if you remember the Wizard of Oz,
I do remember the Wizard of Oz.
you probably remember the Wicked Witch of the West.
I do remember the Wicked Witch of the West.
And we knew that she was evil.
Yes. Okay. I when I hear something like that, I'm waiting for the setup.
But we didn't really know why she was evil.
It was unimportant. We didn't need to know her backstory. See, not every villain has to have a tragic backstory that justifies their actions in some weird way that you try to make. I guessed, is this about moral relativism? You ever see The Never-Ending Story and The Nothing? It's about teaching fundamental lessons about good and bad, about right and wrong. In these stories, these lesson-telling stories, bad is bad and good is good. Not because the world necessarily always works that way, but because there is a distinct line between right and true action and evil and selfish actions. If you want to talk about the gradients in between them, or the possibility of there being some kind of explanation, or boy, oh boy, maybe we shouldn't put them in jail for that long because they had a really traumatic childhood. But anyway, okay, we didn't know what her backstory was. And admittedly, I don't know what backstory, if any, Frank L. Baum wrote into the Wicked Witch's backstory, because I'm guessing that it was all made up after the fact by the guy that did Wicked. You know, sort of a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead situation where you take what's not said and just fill in the blanks with your creative writing.
And if you know The Wizard of Oz, you probably know a new version of that story that's been very popular.
It's called fan fiction. It has nothing to do with the writer's intent. So it's made up outside of canon.
Thank you. And if you know that version of the story,
and I only vaguely know that version of the story,
you know that it does something very different.
Yes. Moral relativism.
It takes a traditional antagonist, the villain,
and humanizes her.
and it humanizes her.
No! I did it! Okay, now here's the question. Does he see this as a good or a bad thing?
We see why she does what she does.
According to a fan fiction theory.
We see the system and the people around her and how they've created this mess.
According to a fan fiction addendum to a classic story.
We see that she's just trying to find a way out.
By trying to kill a little girl and her dog. And enslaving an entire army of monkeys. That's all. She's trying to find a way out. That's all.
You know, the way that we've told stories over the past 2 or 3 decades has changed a lot.
I agree with you there. I'm still waiting for you to give your assessment on the quality of such changes.
I started to notice it when I was in college.
Okay.
We've taken the traditional antagonist, the bad guy, and we've humanized them.
Yes. Lots of people love doing backstories on bad guys. Sometimes they work. Oftentimes it's apologetics. What do you think about that?
We've had our villains turn into these kind of humanized half heroes.
Yes. Cruella. And Wicked. What was her name? The Angelina Jolie, where she played the evil sorceress Why is that? Why am I suddenly blanking on her name? You know what I'm talking about.
There's good and there's bad about that.
Okay, well, I don't know if there's any good about it. Depends on what we're talking about.
But the stories that we tell,
Maleficent. Thank you, Darth Anarch. Anarch. I always say your name like one word, Darth Anarch, but it's Darth Anarch. Maleficent and Inquisitor and Frankie Della. Thank you.
they help us teach children the difference between right and wrong.
Yes, in the most drastic ways possible, and ignoring the gradients and making excuses for things that are demonstrably bad.
Heroes and villains.
Yes.
You know, I love Rihanna, but you really shouldn't be friends with the monster under your bed.
Why not? It worked for Little Monsters. I mean, Howie Mandel and Fred Savage were friends for life after that. Why do I remember these things?
It's just bad advice.
Uh-huh.
2010, Despicable Me. 2014, Maleficent. And then 2018, I believe, was Venom.
What about Megamind?
Then you had Maleficent 2.
I talked about Maleficent. What about... Okay, Venom. Well, I could go on and on about what was wrong with Venom, the movie, versus Venom, the comic book character, because... But anyway.
You had Cruella. And then you go up to 2024, 2025. You had Wicked, Parts 1 and Part 2.
Yes.
Each of these movies has made over $500 million.
Okay.
And they've been some of the most popular movies in the past decade and a half. You can even look at something like Marvel.
Well, you talked about Venom, and I have looked at Marvel. Tell me about Marvel. Are you a Marvelite like I am?
And today they have Agatha all along.
Yeah. And their version of Agatha is so convoluted.
A show that very much takes a traditional antagonist.
Agatha Harkness wasn't a traditional antagonist. What? She wasn't even the real antagonist in WandaVision. Wanda was the antagonist in WandaVision.
Villain and humanizes her. And these are just a couple of examples.
Do you have... Okay, wait. Do you have any idea what Agatha Harkness's role in the comic books was when it came to midwifing Wanda's kids back in the day? Okay. This is where my nerd card is going to have to be coming out here. This guy does not know what he's talking about when it comes to Agatha Harkness. She was always kind of a gray character, even in the comic books. She wasn't a traditional villain. Anyway.
I mean, most stories today, they really focus on broken people inside broken systems.
Yeah, they're making excuses for people that do bad things. I will grant you that. Okay, again, if he's making the case against moral relativism in pop culture, he's got my ear. Not literally, but you know what I mean.
And that's how they build their tension.
Yeah.
And if you take just a second, think about the movie that you were obsessed with as a child.
Yes!
It doesn't have to be complicated, just the first thing that comes to mind.
Yes!
Okay. Now, think about your favorite movie that you've seen in the past year, or
My favorite movie I've seen in the past year.
your child's or your grandchild's favorite movie.
My favorite movie I've seen in the past year. Boy, oh boy, that's a rough one. Well, I mean, and the idea of what qualifies as a movie these days, because if I watch something on Netflix, I don't necessarily think of it as a movie. It's more like a extended TV show. That's a rough one, huh? In the I'd have to think. Let's see. Hold on. Well, let's look at 2025 movies. 2025 movies. That'll probably give me a good. Let's see. Of things that I've seen. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Anything that jumps out at me as... Huh. Oh, I found a list of every movie released in 2025. That's a bit too much. That could take forever. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. And I have watched The Hunt for Red October in the last year. So I could say the best movie, but I'm going to take him at his word. Like, okay, something I've seen in the last recent year or so. Let's see. Theatrical movies. Movies. Because it sure as heck was not Thunderbolts. I'll tell you what, it was not Thunderbolts. Let's see. Did I see anything? Well, let's see. And definitely was not Captain America: Brave New World. Wasn't that? I'm reminding myself of what came out in 2025. Not a whole heck of a lot. Well, I mean, there was a lot of things, but not a lot of things that really pinged my... A Working Man was okay. I mean, it's based on the Chuck Dixon Levon Cade novel. Or novels, technically. Although I like Jason Statham. Levon Cade really should have been an American. But, people can argue about that. Let's see. The Wedding Banquet. Accountant 2 was okay. It was okay. Thunderbolts sucked. Let's see, I didn't see that one. Well, I'm being reminded of all these things that came out last year, like Ballerina for John Wick. It was okay. 28 Years Later, I saw bits of that. Wasn't that great. Jurassic World Rebirth, This Is Spinal Tap. Oh, yeah. I Know What You Did. Oh, The Fantastic Four First Steps. That certainly wasn't the best movie I saw last year. Boy, oh boy. Primitive War was pretty good. If you guys haven't seen Primitive War, man, dinosaurs and war... That was, you know what? That might be up there. I might have to say Primitive War. Yeah, in the absence of looking through every movie that came out last year, I'll say Primitive War. If you haven't seen Primitive War, yeah, the sequel, it's like Dinosaurs of the Wild West or something, is coming in the near future, so check that out. Anyway, sorry for the diversion. I was trying to think of, like, what was the best movie I saw last year? Primitive War. I'll say Primitive War.
Do you know the villain in that story?
In Primitive War? Dinosaurs!
You probably do know the villain from the story when you were a child.
The villain in The Hunt for Red October? Yeah, I know the villain in the Hunt for Red October was communism! It was the Ruskies! The villain in The Hunt for Red October were the Russians! That's who it was! It was political officer Putin, and it was everybody back at the Kremlin trying to hunt down Ramius, who was given a big middle finger to the Soviet Union. It was the Russians who were the bad guys.
It's pretty shocking to me when I've looked at the data, when I'm looking at the 80s and 70s versus movies today, the shift is really obvious.
Such as?
especially when you look at children's stories.
Okay.
But why does this matter?
Because moral relativism is bad. Teaching clear and concise good and bad things in fables and stories is good as teaching lessons for children, especially when they're developing into assimilating into society and the narratives we tell ourselves as a culture. That's why we need clear good guys and clear bad guys to teach lessons. You make it all gray area and, oh, well, every bad guy has a story, so don't judge him too harshly. Darth Vader had a troubled childhood, so him massacring all those children really shouldn't be seen as necessarily a bad thing. Yeah.
Well, movies, they don't just entertain us, they train us.
Well,
and when that training leaves the theater, it can become very real.
Yeah, especially if it's 50 Shades of Grey, which is a scary thought. Okay, you're going to make faces at us for a second?
In 2016, dozens of young athletes came forward with accusations against the Team USA gymnastics doctor, Larry Nassar.
Okay, this took a turn all of a sudden. Okay.
And what shocked the nation most, it wasn't just that the abuse had taken place, it was that it had gone on for so long.
Yes. Why was that?
For more than 2 decades, athletes had been uncomfortable. Parents had noticed red flags. Coaches had realized something wasn't right.
And?
But institutions, they didn't stop it. They kind of explained it away.
Yes, there was a lot of complicity amongst the people that were supposed to be the safeguards to those athletes at the time and for years going on. I agree. So, where are you going with this then?
He was described as kind, gentle, a healer.
Yes.
And by the end, more than 500 young women had been abused.
Yes.
Not because people were cruel.
There were a few people who were cruel when some of the students started asking questions. They were shamed into silence.
But because they refused to believe that someone who looked so innocent could also be deeply, deeply dangerous.
Okay, he's I mean, not glossing over, but he's simplifying a lot of bad actors in that situation. Not to diminish Larry Nassar, but the people that played defense for him deserve a lot more punishment than they actually got. But there's I think it's Dreading on YouTube. They did a big, I mean, it's like a 4 or 5 hour long examination of the Larry Nassar interrogations. There were 2 primary interrogations or interviews, if you want to call them that, by authorities at the time or years apart. And the contrast between the vibe between the two. In the first instance, he's basically been already cleared in the mind of the person talking to him. It's all procedural. And in the second instance, years later, someone actually starts really questioning him in an authoritative manner. And you see just how quickly he crumbles to any kind of challenge to his claims. Anyway, if you want a very comprehensive breakdown of all the crimes and the events and everything else, the Dreading video or videos on Larry Nassar, while very difficult to watch because the stories involved are heinous, is very informative about how much this guy was protected by his institutions and how badly his victims were treated by the people that were supposed to be protecting them. and also how they got away with it.
I worry about societies that refuse to believe that evil exists.
Okay, I mean, you and I are kind of on the same page, I think. I'm not quite sure why the Larry Nassar thing came up. A lot of people have a hard time believing the worst in people. Not that evil doesn't exist, but, you know, we still reflexively don't want to think the worst of people that we haven't had any problems with, or that there's no outward evidence, or maybe somehow we've, especially in the case of Larry Nassar, there's a whole bunch of people that either had their reputations or their careers entwined with his reputation, and so it was more a self-serving defense than anything else. But okay, you have me so far, although your examples have been a bit off.
But, you know, I must admit, in the beginning, when I first started to notice this shift, I only saw the positive, because there's so much positive about the way we've changed how we tell stories.
Such as?
The fact that we now crave complex characters, and instead of flattening characters, we're humanizing them. That's a massive cultural win.
It all depends on what we're talking about. It's not necessarily good in every instance. It all depends on the example. I don't necessarily need a whole lot of thought put into every character's background or complexity, depending on the nature of the story. You know, I can have a villain that doesn't have a clear background, and it's still a good story, like The Dark Knight. We have no idea what the Joker's real origin story was. And it doesn't matter. So, it all depends on instance.
And it's no coincidence that so much of this change has happened at the same time that people of color, queer creators, and other marginalized communities.
Marginalized! Putting that on the bingo card. Pardon me, I haven't looked at the bingo card for a while. Let's see. Collectivize his own demographic, circling that one for like, did anybody know I was gay? Let's see. Mind reading assumes motives, circling that one. Systemic or institutional, storytelling, Hollywood, etc., Marvel, so on. DEI philosophy, just basically touched on that one. Let's see. Okay, we'll leave it there for the moment. We'll keep going. See what else he has to say.
Have finally been able to have a platform to tell their stories.
Yes, never before.
Stories of suffering.
Yeah, I've never heard a story of suffering from any particular demographic.
Of injustice.
Yeah. Boy, you know, I didn't watch Mississippi Burning or Roots when I was a kid. That could never have happened until just recently.
Of becoming something they never wanted to be.
Like what? Oh my god. Dude, your little facial gestures and everything, introspection isn't helping anything.
But as we change and eliminate evil from our stories.
Whoa. Give me an example of eliminating evil. Give me an example where you're talking about eliminating evil. Changing or trying to humanize villains, etc. and so forth. Yeah, I'll get with you there. But what do you mean by eliminating evil? Be more specific.
It doesn't just change how we see villains. It changes how we see responsibility.
I agree. If you keep making excuses through, oh, well, they had a traumatic background, etc. and so forth, yeah, you're trying to alleviate the actual actions they have taken and give apologetics for it. Yes. I'm both on and off the page with this guy every second sentence.
Because if every harm that's done can be explained away by someone's pain,
yes,
no one has to take accountability for the harm that they cause.
Exactly. I agree. So, what do you propose be done?
And that is a very dangerous lesson.
Yes.
Because empathy without accountability, it can protect the wrong people.
Sure. And so,
Now, I want to look at another example.
please,
Harry Potter.
why am I not surprised?
Harry Potter hasn't been one of the most successful stories of my lifetime because it's complicated. I think part of why it's so powerful is that it's fairly simple.
Yes, as most good morality plays are.
You see, there's this one main villain,
He who shall not be named.
Lord Voldemort,
Oh my god, he said the name!
and we never have to pretend that he's anything that he's not. He's evil.
Yes.
You know, no one stops mid-battle and asks him about his trauma or what happened to him in his childhood.
Isn't there like some really deep lore on that character's childhood, though? I'm not a Harry Potter aficionado. Was it Tom Riddle? Is that Voldemort's real name? Again, I am pulling from the very cursory level of trivia that I know about the Harry Potter universe. Yes, Darth Anarch? Okay. So he has a backstory. I don't know it. Aside from his name, I don't know it. And I don't know if in the books he's somehow given more of an excuse than in the movies, but whatever.
We do learn a bit of that, but...
Yeah.
And I think that the evil that's represented in Lord Voldemort is so undeniable,
Yeah.
as is the goodness that's in Harry.
Yes, you have to have this very clear contrast between good and evil to teach a lesson, to, teach courage and responsibility and bravery against an overwhelming force, etc. Yeah, you can't have any sort of overwhelming crossover between the two, because if you blur the lines, then where's the morality?
And I think that dichotomy is really, really powerful.
Yes, the hero's journey, you're correct. Having a clear good guy and a clear bad guy is very powerful. Yeah.
And our stories have gone through phases. First, it was fear the monster. Stories taught children that if you looked different, you were probably dangerous.
See, he has a point, and then he gets into hints of victimhood. Right?
Then it was understand the monster. We realized that some monsters were just people that were misunderstood.
The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, he did kill people too.
But I think that we need a third step.
Is that why you keep physically moving across the circle? You're embodying this change in storytelling?
We need to see that the monster can be real, and but we can also humanize the monster. But don't pretend that they can't still hurt you.
Okay, I don't necessarily disagree. It depends on the story. What are you suggesting be done? Do you have an example?
Another example that I like is
Yes.
Friday the 13th.
Uh-huh.
May not have expected that one.
I don't know what to expect because you are all over the place, dude.
But Jason is a really interesting character to look at.
Jason is a force of nature. He's not a person. Even in the established lore, he doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense.
Because there's no doubt that he's evil.
Yeah.
But we do see a bit of his childhood. I mean, Camp Crystal Lake wasn't a walk in the park for him.
But
But again, no one stops mid-movie as he's wielding a machete to ask him why he's doing this or how we got here. He's evil.
Yes.
And I do think maybe we need more stories today like Friday the 13th.
Again, I don't disagree. So what? How do you say we need stories that humanize the villain but don't pretend that what they do isn't bad? And then you go to Friday the 13th, where Jason was never humanized in any meaningful way. He was mistreated as a kid, and according to his mother, and it's difficult to say how accurate his mother's claim of the events were, because of the camp counselors, he died, etc. But didn't die because he came back as a super zombie and killed everybody. Okay.
Stories where it's obvious who's right and who's wrong, and we can point out the evil really easily.
I don't know that I would have picked a slasher film to embody that. You might go for like Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. You know, I mean, the prequels weren't the greatest thing ever, but it definitely did show you had someone who was kind of a sociopath for quite a while, and nothing that he did and no hardship that he experienced ever justified anything he decided to do after he turned to the dark side. You know, his last redeeming act in killing the Emperor might have saved his son, but it didn't really erase his history.
And I think one of the reasons why this is a bit uncomfortable is because evil rarely looks like the scary monster like Jason.
Dude, I don't even know where you're going. You're all over the place. I agree with the central point that the idea of evil has been massaged into a gray area blob by a lot of Hollywood over the last 10 or 15 years in particular. I'll agree with you on that. Trying to give a backstory or a trauma story or, explanation or justification to established bad guys is quite the kink. I don't particularly like it, especially when it's done secondhand by some fan service thing after the fact. That being said, what are you proposing be done specifically? Just go back to force of nature bad guy versus obviously good person? Okay. Some stories, the complexity of motivation actually makes the story more interesting. I know, because Ramius is a murderer. All right, for as much of a jerkwad as political officer Putin was, and he was, Ramius killed him, murdered him, in order to further his plans. And yet Ramius, in the totality of things, was more morally justified in his actions. And he turned out to be someone who saved lives at the end because he cared about his crew. He didn't want his crew to be hurt. He wanted to see to the lives and the safety of his crew. And he did. Unless there was someone standing in his way, and then he became a murderer. Now, does that make Ramius a fractured hero? Yes. Does that make him any less a protagonist? No. But that doesn't make him a morally justified individual in the all-around. But it's still a great story. It all depends on how it's executed and in what way. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But yes, the general theme of trying to rationalize evil acts and evil people and give them some sort of moral escape, just for the sake of giving them a moral escape, I'm not a fan of in principle. Okay, so we're in agreement on that problem with modern storytelling. You want to go back to more cut and dry good and bad forces and stories. Okay, fair enough. So?
Evil often looks like our neighbor,
Oh, jeez.
our colleague, sometimes even us on our worst day.
Okay, on my worst day, I'm not going into Larry Nassar territory. When you say evil, that has a pretty profound implication. What is this like? when he's like nodding and sort of like twisting his mouth around, like, what is that?
And that brings us back to the stories we tell.
Okay.
The Wizard of Oz. And I know that I'm going to get this from someone. I realize that the Wicked Witch, Dorothy may have dropped a house on her sister, so there.
Dorothy didn't drop a house on her sister. You say you're a fan of The Wizard of Oz. What dropped the house on her sister? The tornado.
There's that backstory, but she was wicked far before Dorothy ever flew into town. So.
Yes. And she... Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Oh, thanks for that.
But the Wicked Witch of the West, she's taught generations of children something that's so important.
Yes.
Not that if you have green skin that you're evil.
Yeah.
But when
And by the way, the Wicked Witch did not have green skin in the original novels. That was something Hollywood did. So, but anyway, not to be too much of a nitpicker.
evil is presented, someone has to be brave enough to step up and stop it.
Uh-huh.
Dorothy didn't stop the Wicked Witch with hatred. She stopped her by saying, this is evil, this is causing harm, and it must end.
She stopped her with water. She threw water on her. At least in the movie version, as far as I know. Did Dorothy know that water was going to kill the witch? That part I don't remember. Did she know ahead of time that throwing water on her was going to end her?
And she put herself between that harm and the people that she loved.
Sure.
We all have a responsibility for recognizing evil when we see it.
Okay.
And for doing something about it.
Well, yes, if you see something that's demonstrably evil happening. Sure. Yes, there's a moral, the Kitty Genovese fable, as it were. Yes.
If you're a writer, that responsibility matters.
What?
If you're a parent, that responsibility matters.
Whoa. If you're a writer, what about being a writer has to do with the responsibility of pointing out evil when you see it? Are you talking about, like, not, as a writer, not trying to make apologetics for evil characters? Is that what you mean?
If you're a leader of people, that responsibility matters.
Well, being a leader of people, depending on the circumstances, there might have to be some pragmatic evils undertaken. The world is not a nice place, and trying to defend good things sometimes involves doing things that in any other circumstance would be considered evil. It all depends on context. Not that I'm making apologetics for actual evil, but, when you talk about leading people into war, etc. Okay, this irritates me. This long pause, twisting of the mouth thing.
The thing that I keep coming back to, though,
is a weird facial expression is what you keep coming back to.
Our stories are pretty unlimited.
Well, depending on what we're talking about, the hero's journey is kind of a basic framework that most stories take on.
We can accomplish all of this with the stories that we tell. We can teach children that there's a difference between right and wrong.
Yes.
But we can also teach children to grow up to be empathic adults.
Yes. I'm living proof.
And I think if you are teaching children or raising children, it might be smart to think about the diversity of stories that they're consuming.
I know what I mean when I think of the word diversity of stories. What do you mean?
And that's why I worry a bit that the pendulum has swung so far from one way to the other.
In what fashion?
Because
of the wonderful things he does?
When our stories only teach empathy, we may grow kinder, but when they also teach bravery, we grow more capable of protecting each other. Thank you.
Okay. I did not stick the landing on that one. Okay, that was all over the place. All over the place. Anyway, let's go to the bingo card and see what we got here. Okay, I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. Remember, this is Bingo Card Modem. Link is in the description so you can follow along, or link in the chat so you can follow along. Feminism. Not that I noticed. A sales pitch for product or service. Yeah, he promoted particular movies and such. So in that sense, he was promoting these movies as good examples or bad examples, depending of what he was talking about. Contradicts own point, fails to make argument. Yeah. He didn't ultimately give us a clear pathway as to what he wanted to have happen or how it would fix anything. Benevolent condescension. I don't know. After, every point he made that he then punctuated with this sort of like judgy, mouth movement thing, that felt a little condescending for some reason, but I don't know if that makes any sense more than just my irritation. Plays victim. Aside from talking about his childhood favorite of Wizard of Oz and so on, I don't know that he played victim in particular or came up with something like that. Privilege. No. A list. He gave us a list of movies, etc. So I'll take that one. Leaves out vital context. Yeah. What do you want to see done? Or do you have an example of how you would have changed some story to make it better? Or I just felt like there was something really missing from this. Economic disparity. He didn't really talk about economic disparity. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. I don't know about if there's unconscious bias. Deceptive statistics. He didn't really use any statistics. Anecdote that probably never happened. Most of it was opinion-based. Self-vilification or wretchedness. No, not that I know it's noticed. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzzphrase. He kept repeating conceptually changing things. He didn't really give it a brand name, though. White supremacy. Well, he talked about diversification of stories and that only now certain demographics had the ability to say tell their stories. So there was the implication that there was a racial thing going on there. Weightless example, non sequitur. Without going any further on it, the Larry Nassar thing. What? I mean, that was a weird example to bring up out of nowhere, and he didn't need to. It didn't have anything to do with anything. He didn't follow along from that to try to tie it into storytelling or how the institution was covering up evil or something to that degree. I didn't quite understand where he was going with it.
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo!
Of course!
Word salad, certainly, and patriarchy. He didn't really dwell on gender politics too much, that I recall. So that's the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, put them in the chat now. I'll scroll up a little bit. If I miss your argument, please just repost. Let's see. Nazi 3PO. Dorothy was lucky. Yeah, very lucky. Very, very, very lucky. No, it was a total accident. Yeah, the house falling on the witch, it was not an intentional act. The Wicked Witch might have decided to blame Dorothy for that, certainly, but Dorothy did not kill the Wicked Witch of the East. That was not how that worked. Dorothy was trying to help the witch by putting out a fire. Oh, that's right. That's right, because her broom was on fire. She used her magic, right? Showing responsibility through your characters. I like I said, there were points at which I agree with him. Like before I even watched the talk, I thought it would be like a complaint about moral relativism and storytelling. And that was essentially what he was arguing against. And I agree. There's been a lot of that. A lot of making excuses for villains. especially villains that are just there to exemplify evil, like Maleficent, like Cruella, and so on. Like, giving Cruella a traumatic backstory and then she still went on to, like, slaughter puppies to make her fur coats doesn't really work. It just really doesn't work. You can't really make that good or make that relatable, no matter what kind of, prequel you put on it. Let's see. Oh, you guys are talking about smoking. Angela, I'm pretty sure he meant empathetic. At least I hope he doesn't plan on creating a generation on mind-reading metahumans. Well, yeah, empathic. Yeah. Empaths. We need some betazoids. This is where betazoids begin. Empaths. Any other arguments for squares to be circled, guys? Let me know in the chat. This was kind of a half and a half sort of presentation. I was like, well, I mean, I agree with the gist of what you're saying, but you threw in a whole bunch of non sequiturs, red herrings, and, trains of thought that didn't go anywhere. And that constant, like, contemplative, like, judgy, weird, mouth-twisting face thing. What was that about? I don't know. Any other ideas or comments, guys? Let me know. Then explain all the remakes. Which remakes? Of what? Forgot about the fire thing. Maybe treat water like a peanut allergy. There you go. Frankie Della, good night. Thanks for stopping by. Nice to see you. And Mike R. also taken out. Yes, I'm about to wrap up, guys. So this is an extended sort of makeup stream for the last week. But yeah, there you go. 1 bingo. 2 TEDx talks, 1 bingo each, and a bunch of sidewise. Yeah, not the most convincing, I guess, argument on that point. He said we still have stories to tell. Oh, sure. And Disney Plus canceled the Power Rangers reboot. Oh, man. If ever there was another story that needed another retelling, it was the Power Rangers. I really need a Zordon origin movie. I need to know where Zordon came from. I know that the Power Rangers, the movie, like the big budget one, had a prequel kind of scene about Zordon, Bryan Cranston and stuff. I never watched it, but I know that it was there. But either way, I need a Zordon, like a full movie that's just about Zordon's origin story. Otherwise, I can't understand Zordon. And then, what was her name? Rita Repulsa. Was that it? Rita Repulsa? Yeah, I need her origin story. I need to know her tragic backstory of how she wasn't given a pony when she was a kid, or her own Zord to ride around, and that's what made her the way that she is. Anyway, so we'll save off that bingo card too, and I'll post that to the Discord server in a few moments. By the way, guys, did you know I have a Discord server? I have a Discord server. If you'd like to hear join the Discord server, pardon me. Well, let me give you a link to the Discord server. You're not already a member. The link is only good for 1 day because it's an exclusive club. Link to the Discord's in the chat right now. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you're not a bot. Actually watch the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word comes to us from Cyberpunk, the classic role-playing game of the dark future, 2nd edition. Today's secret word is dematerialize. Ooh. There you go. Dematerialize. Just say, hello, dematerialize, and I'll know that you watched this show. Outside of that, today, doing a stream today helps out because of work stuff tomorrow, because of the wonderful things he does. I may not be able to do a DEI stream tomorrow. We'll see. It all depends. So, on the off chance I don't do a DEI stream tomorrow, for sure you can find me here next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, Well, I go a week without doing this and already I'm stumbling over my outros and intros. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the next episode of TEDxcellence, where I'll look at officially a TEDx talk with a TEDx bingo card and all that good stuff, and you can be here for that. There may be other streams over the course of the week. I obviously need to get my fill after a week of not doing it, and there may be appearances in other people's shows like Midnight's Edge, depending on timing. So, with all that, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Larue says, your stream was flawless. Oh. I'm so glad. Now I just have to make sure that my new equipment stays in good tact, kit, whatever, for the long term. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Every one of you that attended, thank you for taking the time out today to help me test out my new equipment and make sure that everything's working right. And I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, let me know with a like and or a comment and or a share. If you didn't like it, tell me what you didn't like about it. I appreciate constructive feedback. If you're just going to tell me I'm a dork, I can take it. I've been through worse. I grew up with glasses when I was 6 years old in the 80s. It was a traumatic time. I have a traumatic childhood and origin story. It justifies everything I do now. Everyone, hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.